Alright, what's going on, everybody? Thank you guys so much for coming out. So this is our Startup Summit panel. I'm really happy you guys are all here. We're going to go to about like an hour-long panel today, open it up to some questions from the audience about halfway through, and then we'll have a reception out in the Great Hall after. But without further ado, also, I'm Zach, I'm the president of the Entrepreneurship Club, just to introduce myself. But yeah, without further ado, I'll just introduce our panelists. So our first is Jillian Freya. She is the global CEO of the Global Venture Network, which is a membership organization that connects leaders from startup accelerators, venture studios, and innovation hubs across 6 continents. Before leading Global Venture Network, Jillian built the Global Startup Program at South Systems, growing a community of thousands of startups and developing partnerships that continue to serve accelerators and makers worldwide. She's also a TEDx speaker, a Pitch Advisory Board member, and was recognized as a top 40 under 40 by the Memphis Business Journal. So, please, warm welcome for Jill.
Wow.
Next is Jeremy Hitchcock, the co-founder and general partner of New York Ventures, which is an early-stage venture fund investing at the intersection of national security and innovation. Jeremy founded Dyn, which was an internet infrastructure company from his college dorm room and grew to over 500 employees and $100 million in ARR before it was acquired by Oracle. He then co-founded Minim, a cybersecurity platform born out of the 2016 botnet attack that took down major platforms like Twitter and Spotify. He's a direct investor now in over 75 companies, a trustee of the Worcester Polytech Institute, and alongside his wife Liz, an active community builder in Manchester, New Hampshire, where they opened a bookery and independent downtown bookstore and cafe. Warm welcome for Jeremy, everybody. And last but certainly not least is Ray Lambert, the founder of Dinner, which is a white-labeled dinner club platform helping creators turn their audiences into real-world connection and recurring revenue. Previously, Ray co-founded and sold Olivine, a B2B SaaS product marketing agency that served clients like LinkedIn, Meta, and ServiceNow, and scaled to $2 million in annual revenue. She also created All In Meetups, a community for the All In podcast, and grew that to 10,000 members across 50 cities. Ray was an early product marketer at Intercom and on the early team of Momentum, an AI revenue orchestration platform that was recently acquired by Salesforce. And she also lives right here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where she's building Freedom Village, a new neighborhood for entrepreneurs. And she writes the newsletter IRL the URL to over 24,000 subscribers. Ray will be our moderator today, and please warm welcome to Ray. Unfortunately, Jason couldn't make it today, but for anybody wishing to meet him, we can talk after about that. But yeah, take it away, Ray.
Welcome, everybody. This is going to be really dynamic. Going to go pretty deep with these two, and then I hope everyone will have lots of questions, and we'll run mics or whatnot. But shout out to Zach for organizing this, along with Monique and Josh. I went to school here a long time ago, and I don't think I was doing like half as much cool entrepreneurial stuff as they were, so I hope they'll let me write them a check someday. Okay, welcome. So tone for tonight is demystifying entrepreneurship, understanding like what is VC, what are venture capitalists looking for, how the heck do you get started, how do you get your first users, why would you even want to be an entrepreneur, because it is hard. It is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss and living off no money in Portsmouth. So why would we want to do it? And yeah, please save all your questions for the end, but I hope you will have them. Okay, I'm going to start with Jillian. How did you get into entrepreneurship?
Test.
You have to push a button. It's green. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. How did I get into entrepreneurship? Well, and thank you for being here tonight. Showing up is kind of like the first rule of entrepreneurship, so kudos to you all for taking the step to learn more and dive in. I got into it also as a college student. Well, I really think before that. And I don't know, I'm curious if you two know this stat, but there's like a fun stat out there about the only trend that we know about successful entrepreneurs is that they started something before the age of 18, before they graduated high school. Like, that's the only trend among all successful entrepreneurs that exists. So
They started a business or just like,
Something that was on, like, they were selling candy out of their locker.
is that true for you? Yeah.
Are you self-conscious that you didn't start anything before 18?
No, I was definitely doing weird stuff, but I don't know if I was like making that much money.
You don't even have to have made much.
Sounds like it's
Yeah.
a start. Just start.
Kind of just
Yeah.
you started something, or, yeah, started
For
something.
sure.
Something,
Okay.
you were hustling in,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the hallways of school, yeah, or your streets or something. So I would say that's started for me, and that's how I got started. Yeah, it was really like early as a, yeah, I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, but I think as I got older, the piece that was most motivating for me about it was that that's who was solving the world's problems. It's like, okay, I don't like seeing, this happening in the world. Well, who's creating a problem or creating a solution for that problem? It's startups. So that was like that. For me, that's still my daily motivator. But that's what got me into it. And then in college, I started an ice cream business, and my family is an ice cream. I'm a big ice cream consumer. So I started an ice cream business and learned the hard way that it's just really difficult to get started if you have an idea, or if you're just like, I have an idea. Now what? And most of the accelerators that at the time were out there were Techstars existed, but it was like you kind of had to be at a certain level to even get into Techstars. And so I was having a hard time understanding that gap. Like, there's what exists, like what you all have here is incredible. I mean, having a support system at UNH like this is amazing. So that didn't exist, and I just became really passionate about learning about that gap. How do we help startups get started? Dove into just mentoring and or volunteering at accelerators. So that's kind of what got me into this world of entrepreneurship.
Amazing. College ice cream. Yeah, I heard the margins are better on soft serve.
That's true, yes.
Jeremy, how did you get started?
I got started actually, I was not a student here, but there's an individual here, Jeff Soul, who I was working on a business plan that was around printing out CDs that would be Napster related, where basically go steal all the things, but I wanted the CD.
Wait, does everyone here know what Napster is?
Napster. So I didn't have anything to play stuff visually, and you wanted to be able to move around with it. So envisioning basically like a kiosk or a dispenser type of thing, you go pick out your songs and go print it. And I, for whatever reason, met somebody who was a score counselor. The score counselor was like, I don't know how to help you. That sounds way beyond what I know. But there's this professor over at UNH, Professor Soul. I should go over and go meet him. And so this was in high school, and it was just kind of fun to I've not actually ever heard that before, so that's really
I
cool.
had to find it, like I had to find where, but it's, yeah, I'll
It must be true because we're standing on stage.
Yeah,
So it's clearly-
I am not confident in it, and I'm like a fact checker, so that.
I also heard something about trauma. Like successful founders all have like shit going on. Yeah. No, nothing? That's a different panel apparently.
Yeah, where do we go over to the counseling side? Perfect. I mean, there's a lot of counseling and mental health in startup land, but yeah, anyway, I was in high school. I started off doing chemical engineering because I was like, oh, it was kind of a fun experience. I didn't know exactly where to go with it, and then met some friends and we started an internet company. We didn't know we started an internet company. We were originally going to start a not-for-profit that was going to be utility, and I mean the basic genesis around Dyn, which was internet infrastructure, was sit in the lab room on a computer. There's a printer next to us. The computer doesn't know how to talk to the printer, but it doesn't know how to talk to a printer on the other end of campus. And it's cold in winter, right? So we figured out some way to make the two talk to each other, and that's how you get a lot of stuff on the internet talk to each other.
So you're telling me that you sold a company for over $600 million to Salesforce because you didn't want to walk across campus in the winter?
Hell no.
Okay. Great. Okay, so I think there's a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs here. And some people, I was talking in the lobby, some have an idea, maybe not a name yet. Some people have customers. There's one kid here that's profitable, which is super annoying because I'm not profitable. What do you feel like, and you guys account for a lot of people because you're investing, what do you feel like younger people or people who are just getting started out in entrepreneurship or like misconceptions, you wish they knew, Jillian?
I think there are a lot, because I've experienced it myself too. I think we overestimate how much capital we need to start and underestimate how hard it is to start and to have the decision fatigue. Like, I think we underestimate how that challenge, like the impact that will have on you as a founder. People say it's lonely, and I think that's part of the reason why. Like, you're making a lot of decisions, and every single one of them has some level of like weight and heaviness to it, because it's financial and your team and everything. But yeah, I think that's probably one of like the biggest things I feel like I wish I knew, was like that you don't actually need as much capital as you probably think you do to get started right away. And yeah, just know that it is like, it's gonna be hard. There's gonna be a lot of decisions you have to make, and lean on your community to get through this.
Yeah, I think too much capital can hurt you because you just don't have that hustle, and you aren't forced to find the truth of like, will anyone pay for this yet? Because you have cash to sit on, and so,
100%.
yeah, I think capital can sometimes lull you into submission and not make you face if you have product market fit. Jeremy, how about you? What do you wish younger entrepreneurs or people who are older who haven't broken into entrepreneurship, what do you wish they knew?
I think people confuse raising capital with success versus selling something to a customer. It is, especially in today's day and age, I mean, building products is a lot easier because of all these AI coding platforms. People's attention is much harder to get. But you know what? It's kind of easy to get a venture capitalist's attention. I mean, we kind of have nothing to do. We're like looking for the next big idea. We're like, ooh, maybe it's this thing, maybe it's this thing. We don't really know what it's going to be. And so, and also our time horizon's a lot longer. So we can place bets that are different, and also knowing that we're not a discovery tool, we're an accelerant. And so even the early stage of capital, which is a bit more kind of frontier, like maybe there's some engineering risk, maybe there's some market risk, and does the market develop this way or that way? That's very different than people when you're hearing these $100 million, $500 million rounds. Oh, if I could only just get Sequoia to just give me $100 million, it'd be great. They're doing it because they are seeing a math formula on a page, and they're actually not taking a lot of risk. And the larger the firm, kind of less risky they are in some ways. I mean, yes, everybody places these really frontier bets, but it's knowing that venture capital and private equity to some extent is really a rocket fuel, and it is not an ignition start.
Can you both talk about how powerful it is to have a network and why you should increase your Lux surface area by coming out to events like this and other types of things? Go ahead, Jillian.
Yes, I mean, since we're all community people, but like, since I do that for a living, I'm biased, but I think having a network is incredibly important. And even David and I were chatting about this as we walked over here today. The power of having tribal knowledge is maybe the best way to put it, just to know some of the things to like, oh, if you step there, that's $1 million, mistake. That like somebody could just, in your community, could just have given you a heads up about it. And that it happens so organically in these kind of conversations with shine firms like this, networking and showing people, it's like you're really looking out for each other. And I mean, there isn't, even with formal education, you could read every book about entrepreneurship, and it's so nuanced that it's not, a lot of those things you wouldn't know. And it comes from people who've been there and seen it. And there's another, I don't know where I am with these facts tonight, but there's another thing I was reading, science I was reading recently about intuition and the gut feeling, and actually our gut feeling comes from pattern recognition, so it's really just about pattern recognition. So when you get that, it's not magic, it is your brain putting patterns together and saying, this is why you should be conscious of this thing. And you, as an entrepreneur, because you're going into the unknown, you're not going to have that pattern recognition yet for a lot of the things you're doing, and that decision fatigue is really hard. So the community, I think a hugely important piece of the network of community is you can have somebody who's what we call venture builders or venture leaders, so say like accelerator leaders and operators, venture studio, early stage investors, and people who have seen it enough times where they have that instant pattern recognition, they can so quickly be like, oh yeah, they're not going to tell you what to do, but they can ask you the right questions to help you understand if you should take that move or not take that move, or just help you like make decisions faster. And that's going to be a huge lift for you to ask the accelerator, like that's the fuel that you need to keep going and
Do you remember what the question was?
Sorry.
It was on networking. Networking's good.
Yeah, I mean, I see you a bit more as a technical founder and not so much in like brand building or, so can you talk about that? Like, as someone who maybe really enjoys like being in the cave coding, but like you still have to have a network.
No, I'm totally knowing that. I mean, it's Myers-Briggs on an eye, and there's this whole, maybe it's like the introvert type person, you know, everybody gets really self-conscious, like, no, I'm an E, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert. And it took a while to get that comfort to say, actually, you can toil away in your cave, and if you are building something of note, something of interest, people will literally beat down your door to go figure out what that, because you're making fire for some other industry that we've never seen this before. This is tremendous and this is amazing. And that ability to understand, like, well, where's the puck going, really does come from that probably tribal knowledge is the best way to describe it. And you can read books, you can have formal education, books, podcasts, news, articles, but by the time this stuff gets published, it gets used in a podcast, it gets used in a book, those lines have been so rehearsed, and all of that knowledge has been distilled down. It's like a committee. It's like you can take a really good idea, put it in a committee, put it in another committee, put it in another committee, and then eventually it's in a book, and that's what you read. You really want to find what are those really asymmetric, very one-off, unique things, because that's what an entrepreneur will use in order to have an advantage against a big incumbent, or trying to get people to change their patterns and their behaviors. And so that's like the be good at what you're doing. That's like a fastball. Like how do you be good and stay good at what you're doing? The other side is, you know, a lot of stuff's hard. I mean, it's you don't even know how to describe the problem. Usually by the time you can articulate, oh, I have an XYZ problem with my head of sales because my head of sales is this. Like by the time you can get that down, you can go solve that problem. But you don't even know you have that problem. So you're just like talking about something that's really just like a stone in your shoe. You're trying to figure out like what the heck is going on. Somebody's like, sounds like you need to replace your head of sales.
Sounds like the head of sales. Yeah.
It's always that. No, it's never the head of sales.
It's always the product, never the salesperson.
Product's fine.
Yeah, product's perfect. Well, I just wanted to make a comment about building your network because I see, especially like young people, it's intimidating, or you feel like, what do I have to offer? And it's like, first of all, older people love talking to younger people because we gotta keep our edge somehow. You know, I'm always telling my younger employees, like, for the love of God, do not let me float away in the abyss. Like, make me, you know, get codex, make me try out the new things. But yeah, I just think like increasing your surface area for luck. You know, if you stay home and watch Netflix or hang out with your friends one more night, you know exactly what's gonna happen. But if you show up to a meetup, if you engage with people online, like you literally do not know what's gonna happen. And I mean, my story, some other time, but that I could not have planned my life. I just showed up and built a network, and then things really unfolded. So kudos to all of you for being here, because
I feel like you should have a talk sometime on your story.
yeah, I mean, just gotta, if you plan things out too much, it'll be boring. You gotta just get out in the world and start solving problems and meeting people. Okay, so Jillian, what signal are you looking for when you are either investing or, you know, trying to start a company? How do you get past, oh, this is interesting? Like, where do you get real signal?
I like to ask how many customers you talk to.
Talk to, so,
Like, have you done customer discovery? I mean, for early stages.
yeah.
I just think it's so important.
I got 15,000 lines of code and I haven't talked to any customers.
I mean, that's one, for me personally, that was one of like, the biggest things I look for. Did you talk to customers? And it doesn't have to be perfect, just like, did you get to 50, 100? And then what's your plan for the next, like, customer discovery never ends.
Yeah. How about you, Jeremy? I've got to watch you kind of tinker with a couple ideas and you're like, it's interesting, but it's not interesting enough. Like, what's the line for you? What's the signal?
I think, you know, companies are supposed to outlive founders. Like that's what everybody's trying to do. And so if you get an idea to have its own momentum so that it generates its own energy, and that's like one of the litmus tests to look at. And so when you're looking at it with a founder, you know, people, you know, I don't know what the kind of the temperature on this is, but there's some people that are very territorial about their ideas. They're not gonna tell anyone about their specific unique thing, and I just wanna be really upfront. Like, no, there's no value in that. The value is somebody who is excited and passionate about solving a problem, who wants to toil on that problem for at least 10 years. That is unique.
Keyword toil.
Yeah, we averaged the first year, which is the breaking and eating a glass, crawling over burning coals, and then year 10, which is maybe you can see champagne. You can't quite drink it because you got work to do, but you can see it.
Yeah, I think, first of all, everyone you see that's on Twitter that like looks like a very successful founder, really successful founders don't have time for tweeting.
Yes.
Or they hired a ghostwriter to write for them. And, you know, I just know so many brilliant founders who, you know, they're too busy to be tweeting and sharing insights and stuff. So just be very leery of seeing who looks very successful versus who is very successful. Most of the millionaires and billionaires I know, they don't drive super fancy cars and they aren't, you know, tweeting douchey photos of them on private jets. So just look for the grinders and surround yourself with grinders.
I'll let you go to these pictures.
So I could not agree more with that statement of like holding on to the idea, like, I know a lot, I know we run an investor network, like, I have monthly calls with hundreds of investors, and it is, we talk a lot about how they're like, oh yeah, they're so, actually, this is what it is, they're so excited about one of the deals that they come across, and I started pulling in my contacts from my solid workspace, because it was in that space, and to do due diligence, we were going down the road, and then the founder said, I need you to sign an NDA. Tails it off. They're like, nope, because it's not that, like, it's not, it's about the person who's willing to sit with it and do it, and loves it, it's not the idea.
Just to be clear, so for everyone, because this happens sometimes, someone's like, I have a great idea, but I'm not gonna tell you about it unless you sign a non-disclosure agreement, which means you won't tell anyone else about it.
And then I can't help you, because
Right.
now I'm sworn to secrecy, and I can't connect you to the hundreds of investors that I could otherwise connect. It's like, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think it's like, don't ask people to sign an NDA, but do know that investors will talk to each other. So don't, you know, give away maybe the whole farm in the first pitch deck. And I know investors share other people's pitch decks because my investors send me pitch decks of my potential competitors, so I do know they do that. But yeah, there is a fine line between oversharing and then like completely trying to be secretive, and closing the door and being too secretive won't get you very far.
But I think if the question is like, what's the signal that we're looking for? It's that somebody can articulate a plan, and it's not just the merit of the customers. I mean, it is amazing how many people have built some really cool product, but it's like, who do you, like, the person that you would prospectively want to buy this, if you talk to them, what's their feedback? Because I'm a proxy for customer feedback, but I'm not the feedback that's gonna actually pay for the customer contract. So if you don't have that feedback, it's not very good. So the signal really is, does the person have a plan to figure out how to put point A to point B to point C? So it's, we eventually would like the money that we invest to come back. That's kind of like you know, if you're doing this professionally, that's sort of the idea. And so if there isn't a plan that a person then can articulate about how they are gonna be successful, it's really hard to do that with investor dollars.
And to that point, you know, investors are looking for a large total addressable market, a really big swing. I do think there's plenty of great businesses out there that aren't venture businesses. They don't need to be a venture business, and that is okay. Don't let anyone make you feel like you have to go through venture for it to have a successful company. I think there's a kid here who has a profitable startup that didn't raise. I mean, that's incredible.
Kudos to you.
Yeah, tell me how.
I was trying to talk people out of venture.
Yeah.
Isn't there a stat? I'm gonna
It
channel
gets touched
you
out.
a little bit. There's some type of stat, I don't know if it is companies that are Fortune 500, companies that go public, or $1 billion in revenue companies, so valuation revenue. And I think it's only 10 or 15% have actually raised venture capital. It's a really small number.
I think that's correct, yeah, there's like a lot of them were private and have remained the founders company, and they're better off, like a lot of brand names that, you know, or that Red Bull's a good example of that, yeah.
I mean, you raised very little for Dime. You bootstrapped up for a long time. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we were too crazy, so nobody wanted to give us any money, and then so we were customer funded. Everybody talks about bootstrapping, but we were customer funded, and so that was who we listened to. We were that way for our first 10 years, and then we raised our first capital, largely which was some secondary capital. One of my co-founders wanted to get some chips off the table and kind of rearrange what he was up to, and we were 30 million, 200 people or so. So we were kind of by definition at least cash flow break even. I mean, banks would not finance us because they looked at us like, wait, how's this like software as a subscription thing? And we don't get this at all. I mean, it was an early time. And so to the point of tribal knowledge, like that was the way in terms of where was the business model going? Because it's really easy to describe what we did using today's vernacular. But going back 20 years and say, well, we were a hybrid cloud infrastructure company selling software as a service contracts to top Web 2.0 companies. Like, those words did not exist when we started the company.
Yeah. Words mean things, yeah. Can we talk about failure? Tell us about like a setback that hopefully you learned something from and came out better on the other side. But how do you know, like, you know, what is the boundary of the failure you're coming up to, and how do you know if you should persist or pivot?
Yeah, I feel every day. I think it's and often, you know, it's like you're not failing, you're just learning new ways to do it. And so I feel like I have like a lot of small failures all the time. But yeah, I mean, my college started, my high school business, I felt a ton in that. But one of those being like team, one being, you know, the types of the approach we were taking. But I think the biggest thing is just not getting too hung up on it. Like, I think my lesson for us is just to keep moving. Like, it's not, I think when I talk to founders about there's challenges, I'm really looking for the mindset, and like, and helping them figure out too. It's like, okay, yeah, it's okay. If you get hung up on it, that's what holds you back. But moving forward, and then just, you know, keep going. That's kind of not letting that be, it's just one moment in time. Failure is just a single event, it's not a person. So it's not personal to you, usually. It's just an event and you move on.
Persist or pivot?
That's a different question than the failure question.
Okay, sorry, failure question.
It's not failure. That's a recognition. You're going to change it. Which one do you want to go for first?
Well, if something's not working, like what is your mental model?
Depends on what your goal is. The pivot thing drove me nuts because it really overemphasized that you were changing what you were doing. And then, like, I don't know about any of you people running companies, but it's different all the time. I mean, if you have like the same way in which you approach your business in 1 year and it's consistent 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 years later, you just haven't changed. Like you're going to get disrupted in some form or function. So I think when you're pursuing an idea and you're trying to figure out, is this idea working, you're constantly trying to do small little hypotheses and tests. Because failure is really when you land on the ground and you decide not to go. And doing that in intentional format said, no, like this patient's dead, like let's move on. And I think when a lot of people will try to run these experiments where they say, well, I kind of tried this, I kind of tried this, so I think there's still hope. And actually the better way to do that is to just exhaustively try path A and then path B. And if you don't do that, you're kind of in this place where like you sort of have hope that one of your things that you tried, that was going to go somewhere, and like that's the worst place. Because the worst place is like, oh, there's hope somewhere. And I think really before you ask the question of pivot or not, you should really step back and say, I'm doing this activity because I want to prove something. So that gets me to the next point in business. Because if you're not doing that, then really you're just like, you're flailing along. So I never really think of it as a pivot. I mean, there's sometimes you wake up and you're like, wow, I'm at a dead end. And I suppose that's a pivot. I guess you just contemplate your...
The valley of despair.
Yeah.
We should have had the startup curve. I don't know if that's...
That would be a great background image.
Yeah, I don't know if... Do kids these days know about the startup curve? It's like the valley of despair, false signs of hope, and then finally, yeah. It's always fun, like, when you're just not doing that great, you're just like, we're here in this little valley of despair part, but, you know, it gets better. For me, I pivoted my startup, and it was really just being super honest about what's not working, and realizing that, like, doors closing is still providing clarity on the path forward, because I have so many people that have come up to me, you know, and no offense to them, but like, this is how it feels. They're like, hi, I thought about this for 30 seconds. You took no salary for a year and worked 8 hours a week, but let me tell you my idea that you haven't thought of. Like, okay, then tell me your idea. And what I know is like, oh no, that idea doesn't work because I fully tried it. And here's why it doesn't work. That idea doesn't work because of this. And like, that is useful because you have conviction on what you're not gonna keep wasting your time doing. So I don't really see like failure. It's like, okay, that thing didn't work, so I'm gonna stop wasting my time doing that. I'm gonna stop wasting resources on it. And that is great clarity, so that when someone else, you know, you hire some new head of growth and they're like, we're gonna do this. I'm like, nope, tried it. That is not the plan. Having conviction on what doesn't work. Okay. What's changing now? What's the startup landscape look like for you, Jillian? What are you excited about? What kind of emails are you answering when people pitch you their startup?
I'm super excited about the physical world, our hardware and software future coming together. I mean, that might just be a bias of my background in 3D computer aided design, but there's just a ton that I'm hearing it too throughout our community. It feels like hardware was always seen, like hard tech things were always seen as like, oh, hardware's hard and you should do it. And now people are like, putting their chips in on hardware because you've got
It's very exciting.
it's super exciting. Yeah. So that's the big one. I think we're seeing, aside from my own excitement, like general excitement across the community more. AI, of course, like, you know, yes, and there's like a lot of skepticism at the same time. So it's an interesting balance of that. Yeah.
And noisy, and I feel like all UIs are just gonna go away. Like, I don't wanna learn the UI for CRM, I just wanna like talk to my OpenClaw bot. So, yeah, I do think AI is exciting, but in a weird way. Jeremy, what are you most excited about?
I'm excited about all the industries. I mean, there's a lot of atoms getting moved around. It's not just bits. It's so easy to prototype. And I think all of the things that were so hard, set up payroll, doing administrative things, building product, the software does the product. It is still hard building like real hardware stuff. Although prototypes are a lot easier today than they were 20 years ago. So many of the things to go validate an idea are just so accessible. And it's like one of those, like back in my day, I had to go to school, it was uphill, 20 miles, both ways. I'll tell you, back in my day, you go to the Secretary of State's office, you had to drive there, or you had to mail a form, you had to wait days for them to respond back. Now you can file it online and it turns around like instantly. So there's so many of those things that are such an accelerant that allow you to be really diligent about what's the value of delivering for a customer. Like what technological product things am I distilling down into a unit of value that I can ship somebody that they want to pay me for. It's so much easier.
It is getting easier. Like, I spun up a website on Lovable in like 20 minutes the other day. Gonna rip out Webflow. It's dead to me.
Yes.
Yes. You know, Stripe Atlas for like $500, you can like file your whole company. I don't pay for lawyers anymore. It's just like, I sold my agency recently, and we were like, you know what? We are just gonna drop this.
And it worked.
I mean, we'll find out in 10 years when I'm like sued or not paid, but yeah, it feels like just spending 20 grand on a lawyer is just such a stupid amount of money to be wasting when, you know, you can get 99% there and the parties have good faith between each other, so it's like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, like rapid prototyping right now is super cool, and like I do think we're gonna see a shift of like, I was just talking to a friend of mine who's with the Consumer Technology Association, so anybody who goes to CES, but anyways, did you go this year?
Not this year.
It's super cool. Anyways, huge conference, but she was just telling me, she thinks like we're gonna we will end up flipping probably the process even that we typically recommend, like customer discovery first, before you build anything, like go talk to people and find out about it. But it's like actually in like 10 minutes you might be able to spin up some minimum viable product thing that you can then, when you do your customer discovery, you could potentially even end with that and show them that it's not taking weeks or months of your time to build it, like we used to. We used to spend a lot of money on engineers to get a product in place. And yeah, we have to.
And maybe what can speak to this, I'm hoping that people will just start solving bigger problems. You know, I had a friend, we were out salsa dancing, he's like, Ray, I found a developer, I'm gonna pay him $1,500 to make my website. And I was like, what? No, you're not. We're gonna make it unlovable, and then we're gonna go out to dinner or something. If you have $1,500 laying around. And so, you know, and then some developer will be like, oh, I guess we don't need coders anymore. I'm like, no, we do, but just like cure cancer, get us to Mars, like stop making websites, you know, like work on bigger, juicier
Real
stuff.
problems, yes,
Yeah.
that's why we're in this, like solving real problems.
Yeah. Jeremy, can you talk to that? Because I know you got your hands in a few real world problem pots.
Yeah, that's the whole notion of, I don't remember which famous DC person, they said that all the radiologists were gonna go away because they were gonna get robots to do this. This is, I think, 15 years ago now. And there's 50,000 radiologists or something along those lines. And what's happened is AI and technology allowed it so you could do 500,000 radiology scans every year with the same number of people. And so basically they made the people 10 times as better. And I think that you know, there's some concern that people have about displacement of AI, like displacing humans. Like, no, it's unleashing, I think, a huge amount of creativity. And every productivity increase, whether it's been horses to cars, whether it's been electricity, has always ushered in relatively full employment. Like we've had that all the time. So the idea is that I care about, like water's still an issue. If you're in the southwest part of the country, or the U.S., we don't really know what the water situation there is 10, 15, 50 years from now. You know, we have a pretty good northeast, so we're fine. But I spent a lot of time around dual-use national security issues. The world is a bit more of a dynamic place. And how do we make sure that we can turn our lights on the right way, and that there's water, there's food, that we have the products that we're looking for, with all the medical things that we want to have. So it's a fascinating time, and it is allowing people to be a bit more mission-driven on whether it's things that are climate or ecological, or whether it's things that are national security or defense, that are protection and the like. So good times for them.
By the way, Jeremy has had ample opportunities, both of them. They haven't plugged a single portfolio company. I thought you would by now.
It could be a bingo game of which one.
Yeah.
There was one that was a real softball, and he's gonna yell at me later because he's in.
Yeah, really? You couldn't? Yeah, I think taking on harder problems is super important in the world, and the human spirit, just like, I mean, when the washing machine came out, or like all these, you know, we used to have to print out directions when we went places, and humans just fill up all their time. They never just, oh, I have all this free time, let me just sit around and do nothing, you know. So I'm just so excited to just like keep filling the cup with more exciting things. Okay, we're about to go to questions, but so I hope you are all thinking about something juicy to ask. Safe space. If you were in college today, what would you start doing in the next 30 days? Jillian. If you wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Keep doing this. Coming to the events, meet people, talk to people, and I look for a problem. Like, what's the problem you're seeing around you? I mean, you probably already have one that you're working on. It's great. So I would then just go talk to customers, iterate on it, do it again, and see if you can do like a few iterations of it within the next 30 days.
Yeah. Jeremy?
Probably not much different. It's kind of sad, or really awesome. Like that's what you should do. It's a playbook. There's really very little downside for starting something or talking about customer discovery. I'd say go find a co-founder though that has a slightly different domain expertise, way that you're approaching things. You think about where the world is going to be, and having the perspective of where that puck is going, I think is going to be harder and harder. Everybody has access to amazing research and tools. Like, I mean, you have library services here, but I mean, you can code your own pitch book in not that long. You can code your own whatever analytical tool that you want. And so that Xenogeist mentality is really going to come from really a fusion of really great ideas. That's where so many tremendously wonderful, powerful companies have come from. They've always been, generally speaking, they've been more than one founder who's working on something. So go find somebody who does give you that energy and is a co-collaborator.
And my advice tonight is just go up to people and ask questions. I feel like a lot of people, some people comment, they're like, oh, you're so good at networking. I'm like, well, I'm asking questions and I'm listening. Don't just, go around and pitch slap everybody. Okay, ready for questions from the audience? Chaz, in the back.
We yelling or miking?
I don't know.
We have one.
We have mics.
Mic
It's for the
test.
benefit of the video. We're all doing it for the content.
For the content. Well, first off, I want to say thank you for carving out time in your busy schedules. All of you are super busy, and thanks for volunteering your time to do this. And then the other thing is, the question that seems really relevant to a lot of people, it's not such a fun question, but hiring and firing. So there's a lot of people here that are probably going to be looking for work or going to be hiring team members. Can you share some stories on hiring and firing? How did you know there were the right people to hire? When did you know it was time for people to go? Any stories you want to share that would be relevant to the audience?
Jeremy?
Oh, I get it. Pick on first. There's all these adages of hire slow, fire fast. I think the world's moving into a dynamic where it's speed actually kind of matters. I mean, you have to have a set of skills, trust, and the like. But really, it's especially in a startup world. The answer is it depends. Depends on if you're like a little startup or if you're a larger company. But I think if somebody shows up and is passionate about the company that you're working on, that is so much more valuable than somebody who's like a world-class anything. Or maybe not they're world-class, but they have to have passion in it. I think that's screening for a lot of those intangibles is more and more important, and sometimes that changes. So on the firing side, it's like if you're thinking about it, you probably should do something.
It probably has to be done, yeah.
You're not too far from doing it if you're thinking about it. Yeah, I totally agree. And so much that as a tech startup in San Francisco, we were growing rapidly. We're like went from 10 to 60 in like less than 6 months kind of thing. And we created a culture interview as part of our process, and it had to be somebody that wouldn't like typically be the person interviewing them. So and that was hugely helpful for us. And the reason why we did it was because we made some really bad hiring decisions early on. And so I think that's find people that like genuinely care. The best people that were part of that team, it's still working here today. We're genuinely passionate about the problem. We literally did what you said. Like we had like people that genuinely cared, and then we had people that we brought in who were like the best in their field for this thing, and we paid ridiculous.
Way too much for them to run the same tired playbook they already ran that's already been exploited, yeah.
And they took advantage of us.
Yeah.
So we were really like a kind team. Anyways, the cultural interviews are huge.
What else? Jack?
How do you both think about competition? Like I remember when I was at UNH, and there was someone who had this like niche idea, but they were in Colorado, and I was like, oh no, this idea has been thought of, right? Like, how do you think about, and how should students be thinking about, novelty of idea versus like the importance of actually executing on that idea and and bringing it to life?
8 billion people in the world, it's really hard to have an original idea, just saying.
8 billion monkeys coming up with how many different ideas coming up, it's like a Shakespeare thing in there. It's whether or not somebody wants to execute on it. And I would say, if you want a more analytical canvas or a more analytical approach, I would look at a lean canvas. Like, what is the real core IP that exists, and what's the moat? And really, in the end, like, what businesses have a real defendable moat? It's not. I mean, be happy to look at almost any organization. Be like, if you wanted to go disrupt this company, this is how you would do it. But really, it's can you deliver value for a customer segment, and can you create something that somebody wants? And sometimes you want to have Pepsi and Coke, and there's a reason why they coexist. Or maybe you want to have something that's more like ketchup and mustard, where it's complementary. That's where I think actually understanding how markets work and how people think about substitution matters. It's also why people need to understand their customer intimately. Like you're not competing against the person that's over in Colorado who's like, also just sitting in an auditorium trying to think, how am I going to come up with this one idea? It's somebody who, like, they want to toil away, they want to be the world's best at something, and they want to go find 10, 50% of the 50,000, 100,000, a million customers that are out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Execution all day. And I mean, water, like, there's how many water bottle companies are there out there? Like, or different types of water brands. Like, it's just water. But I think it's also like the abundance mentality. Like, there is an entry point. Like, you're looking for the 50,000 people or whatever, or a certain percentage of the market in this thing, and like that person or that competitor out there who maybe is doing something really similar could have a different slice of the pie. Like, there is enough to go around. And usually what we find is if you focus too much on the competition, it doesn't do any good. Like, it's the time spent on that could have been better spent moving forward in your direction. So yeah, I mean, I'm like, the competition I wouldn't worry too much about. Like, we were, even as we were a tech company that started by that, it was like really trying to own we were developer communities, and we own developer communities. We had a competitor who owned a different piece of the community. And in some ways, we actually we liked that because it was bringing awareness to like part of the problem we were trying to solve, but we knew our ICP, we knew our ideal customer profile, and that's what we chased. And I've seen that now today with startups too who are category defining. So if you're building a new category, in some ways you're kind of like glad to see there's competition. You're like, cool. Like, okay, cool. The category does exist, and somebody else is raising awareness for me out there. Like, cool, awesome, And then you just chase a different piece of that pie.
We baked a cake for our competitors when they entered spaces. I remember the day when they went.
You baked cakes for
Oh, yeah.
people?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
Wait, you ordered a cake from a bakery, or you personally baked the cake?
The first two were company made.
That's amazing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we shipped. So I was doing internet infrastructure. Google came out with a DNS, with a traffic management product, and I won't say the person's name, but we shipped the dude a cake. And then the person over at Amazon shipped that person a cake. He went over to Oracle, and I was acquired by Oracle, so that person, he must have been a pretty good cake.
Such a baller move, be like, I see you, and I baked you a cake.
We had this hilarious VP of engineering, and she loved baking, and so she's like, you know what? Those colorful language, we're gonna bake a cake. Let them know they're on notice.
That's
Who's
right.
going down?
Amazing.
That's really good.
Okay. I don't usually bake, but I have to start. Who else? Yes, you third row. Oh, that guy next? And then, okay, sorry. Sunglasses next, and then tie next. Yeah, you.
Well, thank you all very much for being here and talking. I really appreciate all of your insights. And I think I heard one of you talking about how you forgo, using a lawyer when selling off a firm. And, I'm curious, I'm quite interested in IP, and I think that's really important for startups. What point do you think entrepreneurs should really be focused on, making a good relation with some, IP attorney or someone, and, being someone who's interested in IP and entrepreneurship in general? What value do you see in pursuing, a law degree with an IP track in today's day and age?
I might recommend against the law track. And or go into it knowing that it's going to change in like every manner possible. I did an offsite with a 1,000-person law firm, and I was there with a Harvard Business School professor. And the Harvard Business School professor going on and on saying, this AI stuff is going to change in the world, and I'm not sure if it's like electricity or it's going to be like fire. So when you think about that, like electricity was a pretty disruptive thing, but fire was a real kind of game changer for the human race. I mean, we were kind of like just part of the pack, and then all of a sudden, when fire came out, we could take in more calories, and so then like civilizations popped up. So like that's a big deal. And one of the things that you have in law is that you still have this billing model that is time-based. So if you increase somebody's productivity and your billing metric is time-based, you don't get any sort of credit for the increase of productivity. And so what's going to happen is that AI is being adopted by lawyers all the time. That's true. Harvey, there's a bunch of other products that are unicorn companies that are in that space, but the economics that are around that are so messed up right now. And so, I would say if you were going to go do that, like go figure out how to be either the very best patent attorney for the very best customers, like go to the top end, or go to the other end, which is like how can you do long tail with them. and do some strategy which is not like, I wanna go be a lawyer at someplace. And also I'd say if you wanna do patent stuff, or any sort of like trade secret stuff, you really wanna have like understanding of craft, of mechanical engineering or chemical engineering degree, because those are gonna be the people that understand the technology and then how to apply protections against what market forces demand.
That said, David Sachs is a very interesting software founder. He built and sold Yammer to Microsoft. He's made movies and he's head of the like crypto czar in the Trump administration, and he has a law background, and you can tell when he's debating people because even if he's wrong, he's right. So he might be an interesting person to look at, just because he has like a law degree and a law background, but he like kind of deploys that in the tech world, which is kind of interesting.
I love that too. Actually, one of the best founders that I invested in and work with right now is an attorney, but became a founder in the beverage industry, like totally different, but his secret sauce, and the reason why I invested in him is, like, a lot of it is because he can move so fast. Like, it's such a highly regulated industry to be in alcohol, and so to be able to open up in each state, that company was in 22 states within the first year of launching, which is like unheard of and not just so it became his secret weapon. So like there is different ways. Yeah, like if you're interested in it, you can pursue it. And to the point, like it's not necessarily it's gonna look so different, but that's okay. Like it could just shape your path in a different way.
Time.
Not to sound like a broken record, but once again, thank you guys for coming out. My question was basically just, in your industry, what were the biggest barriers of entry and how did you break through those barriers?
I'll give a couple. So one was simply a credibility standpoint of why did I have any right powering infrastructure that really smart, talented Silicon Valley companies. Like you're based in New Hampshire. What do you possibly know about technology? And like you still have the telegraph over there. You guys know that all sorts of.
Do you have any stoplights?
Yeah, all sorts of things like that. And eventually you just realize that you just tune that stuff out. And so your barriers that you're thinking about, I mean, there are some, I'd say, cultural ones that don't get you in the right conversations, and then there's some structural ones, which is that you're in the conversation but you don't get the deals. And so you have to figure out where your place is in that, in terms of where you're falling down. So first one, on the cultural side, you just have to, like, we were obviously part of the conversation. They're making fun of us, so clearly they think that they don't understand us, and so then it's an educational process. And then as especially in an emerging company, and a lot of our portfolio companies go through this, they're trying to justify why they're sophisticated, smart, talented, and they're able to do what they're doing. And that's more of a structural thing. So it's trying to figure out how can they comply with things that they didn't comply with? How can they give comfort that they're gonna be around for a while? And so it's really just understanding the barriers that your customers actually have, because a lot of times you can write down like, oh, they're not gonna take me seriously, oh, they're not gonna, like, you can actually get in your own head about the 10 or 15 things you're gonna fail. There's only gonna be 2 or 3 of them. You just have to figure out what those 2 or 3 are, and then go figure out what your customer cares about, and then try to mitigate those versus making this exhaustive list. So like, I don't get too concerned about barriers of entry. I think it's more of understanding how is that decreasing your freedom of movement in a particular space. For the most part, it stops to really matter and actually becomes your superpower, because then you're the cool person that people don't understand. I didn't have to go say I was like the 8th or 10th technology company that was in San Francisco doing what I was doing. I sent from New Hampshire, like, oh, you're Don, oh, you're Jeremy, and that became really easy. Same thing doing venture stuff, doing, dual use defense tech, investing out in New Hampshire. Nobody knows that. So I use geography a lot of times as a way to break down barrier of entry, because people will say, like, do you have a traffic light? You don't have traffic lights, man, we gotta help you out.
Yeah.
And sure, like, oh, help me. And then you use that to be a really thoughtful person and engage in conversation.
I think I'm gonna speak to this just because I'm like in it right now as a founder, and I was building an event app before, and there's just like so many competitors, and there's this one company called Pi. The founder was the founder of Bonobos, which is like a menswear company, and he raised a truckload of money and was basically paying people to host events on his app. He called it like a host creator fund. And I saw this in action because I was hosting an event with Jason Calacanis, who we mutually know. Jason was on his board and he was my first investor. I was hosting an event in Austin with him, and I got served a paid Instagram ad for my own event. And I was like, huh, I didn't run a paid ad for this. And I looked, and it's the same image, the same copy, but the address was slightly different. And it's because someone was, Pi was paying out per RSVP on the event. So if the event sucked and Jason didn't show up, it literally didn't matter because the host was getting paid per RSVP. And this just sounds like a really fast, funny way to light a lot of money on fire. And so in the early days, I was like, oh my God, the founder of Bonobos, he's been following me, and in his Twitter account, it said making pie, and like, I didn't understand that he was competing with me because I thought he was literally making pie, you know. And then you realize like, oh, like he's an experienced founder and he's just lighting money on fire for like crappy events that aren't even real. I don't know. So some of these things I guess that I'm saying are like barriers. Sometimes in hindsight, they turn out to not even be barriers, just boondoggles for other people. Who else has a question? Joshua. Shout out to Josh. He's the first startup person I met when I came to New Hampshire. I put up flyers around town, print is not dead, and I was like, come to my tech meetup. And Joshua came, and he's been the best connector. So shake his hand after.
Flyers.
Check.
Check.
There we go. Flyers work, turns out. Maybe not on campus anymore. There's a lot of noise here. So, my question for you, and I'm going to regurgitate a question that the students should ask, but they don't know to ask, and I know this because I've talked to several today alone. Students are so excited to tell you all the different ideas they're working on simultaneously, right? And I think that's impressive, and it's cool. I would love to have your feedback on A, that I have 15 different ideas person, or B, I have 500 different features for my product I'm about to launch person, and give some feedback to the students on those.
It's quite a spectrum. so you're saying like when, to clarify, like somebody approached you and they're like, hey, I've got 15 different ideas, or the other end of the spectrum, I've got 500 features. What's the reaction?
Super shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen a lot, and I love to see when they come, when they're like, okay, well, I'm happy to chat there, but then like, which one are you gonna go with? Because you can't do all of them. So then I love to see when they do come back and they like found one and then stick with it, and they try to keep solving for that one. And it's very fun and gratifying to see when that happens. But,
I have very tactical advice with this, and because I'm a marketer, I tend to like try go to market before I build product. So just like spin up, and you can do this now with Lovable, spin up, if you have 15 ideas, spin up 15 different landing pages.
toss it out there.
Post them all on LinkedIn and see which one gets the most likes. And focus on that, or see which one you can build a wait list for. You should ask Brian O'Hare about this kind of stuff too. I know after he'll have things to say. But yeah, I would say like as someone who has a lot of ideas and projects, I do have to focus, and it's like, where is my unfair advantage? Which of these ideas do I have an unfair advantage on? Which of these do I have just a lot of fire in the belly for and a lot of gas in the tank because everything takes way longer than you think it's gonna take? So what can I work on for 5-10 years? You know, not 2 weeks. So yeah, and then your moat is kind of like, well, you're having fun, you care about this problem so much, you're gonna outlive everyone else. It's kind of like, yeah, maybe it's an interesting market.
Yeah, I was like, let's ask people like, what's gonna get, like, what can you wake up and be excited to do every day for the next several years? Like, ideally 10 years, but yeah, like, can you do this for years every single day, I'm excited about it, great, okay, go with that one. And then the other end of the spectrum, like the 500 feature situation, is like, simple, like, how do we simplify this? Like, if you were gonna make it just, one, can you explain to your grandma, and, you know, if you were gonna make this so simple, like, what would you do to make it more simple? simple as like my question for, try to get on that path of like.
I used to hear that, I would see tweets about this and people would be like, hey, if you found a real problem, people will like put up with like a dog crap app to like solve this problem. I used to hear that and be like, no, that's not true anymore because just the bar has been raised and I don't know, I thought that was like dated advice that didn't apply anymore, but then I pivoted my startup and there was like no features, it was sneaker featured, we were like manually doing everything and people wanted it and I was like, oh, that's what they've been trying to tell me this whole time. Like it actually, if you have the right problem and the right business model, you actually can get customers with very little product. So actually someone was kind of pitching me their idea tonight and I had to come on stage so I didn't have time to give them this feedback, but you're building too many features. You gotta like get some big customers, focus on a small niche, don't overbuild all your features. Let your customer, like find some great customers that you're excited about and you have to like your customers. I was building for some Web3 people and I kind of hate them and that was like really difficult. But if you really like your customers, they'll like tell you what they need.
How do you feel as a product person on this?
Yeah, simplicity makes a big difference. I think just as someone who likes to have lots of ideas, I have a very strong conscious process that I go through to think, how do I cut this stuff down? As an investor, you're also trying to think about that. Like how can you think about a smaller number of markets that you're investing in, smaller, like the focus is actually the future, and it's something that is a continual pursuit.
I think we'll leave it there, but you should definitely ask us more questions in the reception that's happening outside after this. Thank you so much to Zach, Monique, and Joshua for putting this on and getting the three of us, out of our caves for the day. It was really fun, and yeah, please don't bite. We don't bite, so come ask us questions during the reception. Thanks, Zach.
One more round of applause for our panelists.